All right, hi everybody. Welcome to this week's exercise on perspective drawing. And what we're going to practice in this assignment is drawing perspective, but we're going to start it in what hopefully feels like an easy place, which is a hallway. This can be any hallway, anywhere. Make sure that you watch the other video that I posted on perspective drawing before you start this video with me so that you have added information before we get started. So what you're going to see here is that, one thing that we know about perspective is that all perspective starts from what is known as a vanishing point. Let me just get a red pencil going here. So everything starts from what is known as a red vanishing point. So we're going to look at this little drawing as an example first. The vanishing point for every single one of these boxes is right in the center. And essentially everything radiates out from that very point. And I'm going to show you how to find the vanishing point in your hallway. And then you can see that all of these boxes have this kind of perspective, all based off of this one vanishing point. So drawing in one point perspective hopefully won't feel that intimidating, but I'm gonna try to ease you through it. So anyways, you can see that we've got this perceived perspective in every single one of these boxes. And it's just because we have these lines radiating out and we see these different ways that we're peering into the boxes. So in this one, it looks like we're staring straight on to the box. In this one, it feels like we're looking into a hole from the left side and it's radiating inward. Same here, but opposite. This one we're looking up at something and it looks like it's, coming down into space like so. So we're changing our perspective here just by measuring and using the way the lines are radiating outward from that vanishing point. And then we have what is known as the frame. So the frame is what we call the viewfinder per se. So your frame is what frames your drawing, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute too. But you can also create a viewfinder by just cutting a rectangle out of a piece of paper. So I'm going to show you what that looks like here in just a little bit as well. Okay, and here I just have some more imagery kind of showing. So here's perspective using a vanishing point beginning here, and then of course the lines radiate outward from that vanishing point, and the drawing of this couch begins. So there isn't any rule as to how many lines radiate outward, and sometimes that can get a little bit confusing. So when you do your perspective drawings, you're going to be doing 2 of them. You want to use light lines when you're drawing these types of lines, and you only want to use dark lines where you have actual physical things that you're trying to represent in your drawing. Kind of like it's shown here. So we're going to focus on a hallway drawing. This is a common exercise when dealing with perspective. So obviously we looked at measuring and angles last week, and using perspective and measuring and angles, you should be able to start to get a feel for drawing things in a technical and calculated way. This is the math part of drawing. And, it may feel like it's really technical and tedious right now, but this is how This is how technical drawing works, and this is how you do make a believable space in your drawing to convince your viewers that your drawing's actually going back into space in a believable way. This is the key that Giotto and Da Vinci and other artists in the Renaissance finally understood after hundreds of years. They finally got perspective right. So if you feel like you're having a hard time and struggling with this, I don't want you to feel bad, because it took human beings like hundreds of years to get to this point, okay? So I want you to just do your best. I'm not going to grade you on whether your perspective drawing is perfect, but I am going to be able to tell if you're really giving it your all and trying to use these radiating lines outward down to your vanishing point to create a perspective with perceived depth, okay? All right, so how do you get started on such a thing? Well, let me see. I've got a couple of other images here I'm going to show you first. Let me just see what I've got. Let me shut this background one off so that it doesn't get confusing. Okay, so you are going to do this drawing in a hallway type of area. A hallway would be best, especially if there's like a wall or a door at the end of it. If you can't do that, try to find an area of either your home or somewhere else you have access to where you've got like a smaller type of room situation going on. So here are some examples of, somewhat hallway areas that are a little bit wider. Yeah, so generally speaking, and I'm going to show you on real photographs how to get started with this. Generally speaking, your vanishing point in this type of situation is going to be in the center of either the square or rectangle at the end of this hallway, whether it's a door or a wall. So you can see here in this image that the lines all meet in the center, pretty much in the center of that rectangle there. And I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about how to find this in just a moment. So the next thing that you might want to do is create and use a viewfinder. So let me actually go back. I'm going to just grab a different brush here really quick. So I'm going to draw this in kind of a light yellow, but if you're doing this with a piece of paper, it's probably going to be, white or whatever color the piece of paper is. So if you just take a piece of paper, I would say a good size would be like a 5x7 piece of paper. So I'm just going to draw a rectangle here. So you cut out a 5x7 piece of paper. And then what you're going to do is you're going to cut out a rectangle inside of it that's maybe like a 4x6. And you'll notice that as I say those are common photograph sizes. And I think that's a good size to work with because that's something that we're sort of familiar with looking at in terms of physical images, physical photographs. So here's my viewfinder, and how you're going to use this is going to help you focus on a frame area in your drawing in your house. So if I go to move this around, so let's say you're in your house and you're in your hallway and you're sitting at the end of it and you're like, okay, I want to do this perspective drawing, but like, how do I just focus on a particular area because it's so overwhelming? Well, you can use this viewfinder to focus on a particular area and you can, you can drown all that other noise out. So this is what I would do. So I'm gonna bring this viewfinder back up here in just a few moments with a photograph, and hopefully that will visualize a little bit better. Okay, so let me just move that up. All right, so how does one, the other thing I wanted to say too real quick is, let me just shut these off and turn this one back on. The other thing that I wanted to say real quick is that your drawing, what the images that I showed are pretty perfect in terms of the line work. Yours does not. I do not expect yours to be like that, especially the first one, because you're kind of going to be mapping everything out. So I just wanted to show this as an example of like, this is still a good perspective drawing because the measuring and the math and the angles are happening here. And in fact, don't worry too much about measuring on this one. What you really need to focus on are angles and radiating out from that vanishing point and doing the best you can with geometry. So, but being able to calculate angles is going to help you a little bit. And I'll show you why in just a minute, because depending on how you sit in your hallway area, your vanishing point might be somewhere else. So essentially the very first thing that you're going to do when you start your perspective drawing, whoops, what happened? The very first thing you're going to do when you start your perspective drawing is that you're going to measure these angles across your page first, which are that first cross section, essentially the corners of the walls and the floor. And in the center of that, let's see. I think this drawing is off because they have, I suppose if they went in and measured the angles of the four sides, let me see here. You're going to measure these main four angles first, and that's going to help you get to your vanishing point. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I think this drawing is off. Well, let's just look at the hallway photographs, because photographs don't lie and our eyes don't lie. It's just all about getting our hands to translate what we see in front of us and how we're actually seeing it, which is the hardest part of drawing. So, okay, so I'm just going to delete that. And then let's turn this off because I think that, but anyways, in terms of the line work, the point here with this layer is it's okay if your lines aren't perfectly straight. The other thing you're going to want to have for this exercise is some kind of a straight edge. It can be a ruler. It doesn't have to be a ruler. It can be just a long straight edge of like a magazine or something like that. By the way, you're going to do these drawings on 2 full sheets of drawing paper. So I see some of you have been doing all of your major assignments on just sketchbook paper in your sketchbook, and that's not going to work for this. You need to use your bigger drawing paper and put that on your board, because that's how you get better at measuring angles, is by working on larger pieces of paper. You can do it on small scale, but it's just easier for you to do it on a larger scale. All right, so let me get my first hallway drawing on here. So the first thing I'm going to do is let me make this black and white so you can see it a little bit easier. You can see the marks that I make a little easier, and then I'm going to take the transparency down a bit as well. Okay, so you're looking down your hallway and you're like, how can I focus better on a particular area of my hallway? Well, what I suggest is you take your viewfinder And obviously, like as you set it down and hold it up as you do your drawing, you're gonna place it differently depending, but that's okay. Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna do in this photo is we're gonna find the vanishing point. So I'm gonna go ahead and all you need to do is you're gonna find two of the main visual angles in the photo. So for me, it's this where the ceiling meets the wall in the hallway, and then this bottom line where the floor is running. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the bottom one here. You can find the angle by holding your pencil up like we learned to do, or you can, find the angle and then draw it with a flat edge on your paper. So I'm going to go ahead and, I've got my eraser chosen here. Let's make that a little bigger. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take my pencil and sketch that angle along. And then I'm going to come up to my other main visual diagonal coming through here. And I'm going to go ahead and draw along that edge. And now I can see that my vanishing point is right here. And every single thing that I draw should radiate out from there. So I'm going to come in and measure the tops of these doorways, for example. You see how my ruler is lining up over the tops of those doorways. So that's another main line. So I'm going to do my very best. Now, if your angles are a little bit off, you guys, don't worry about that. This is hard stuff. Okay, so everything should generally feel like it's radiating out from that vanishing point. Now, I said, a lot of times the vanishing point's in the center of that square rectangle in the back of the hallway, but it depends on where you're sitting. Like in this, I'm actually sitting, let me just add another layer here. I'm actually sitting kind of off to the side. So in terms of where I am, I'm like somewhere over here, right? So my vanishing point is going to shift this way a little bit. And that's why it's not quite dead center. So if the easiest way to make it really, really easy and be in the center is to be sitting directly, but we can't all do that, right? Depending on how your hallway is, how you can get in front of it, where you're able to get to. So that's all good. Okay. So I'm going to continue to draw lines to map out the major visual elements of my drawing here. So another big one is the corner up here of the wall. So I'm going to go ahead and line up my ruler with the vanishing point in that corner right there. And then what other main things? We've got this railing that kind of comes out. And you're going to see, like, at first it's not going to feel like things are really lining up from that vanishing point, but they really should be. See, like, it didn't really feel like the bottom of that railing could line up from the vanishing point. But once you get it on there, it really does. And then I've got like the top of the fridge. And then once you get these major points and visual landmarks kind of mapped out, it's actually, it's fairly easy from there. Got this picture. In fact, I can just blow this up a little bit so you all can see a little bit better. Okay, so I've got the picture. I'm going to go ahead and make a line here. I just made my fridge line disappear. I don't know how I did that. See? Digital's not all that great. Sometimes you mess up and hit the wrong thing and then you got to redo stuff. Okay, bottom of the picture. See how that's really lining up with the vanishing point in terms of angle for the most part. Okay, so I'm going to back out. And so now that I have all of that kind of mapped out, I can start coming in and filling stuff up. And so just so you can see better, let me just bring that down a little bit. And again, you're doing these lines in light pencil. So, or trying to remember to. If you don't remember, it's okay. You can just go back through with an eraser and lighten them up. I am going to turn the opacity of this photo down just a little bit more. All right, and then I'm going to come in with, let's say, something that's going to show up but isn't so bright, maybe like a purple. All right, so now what you can do is you can sort of go in. Actually, what's interesting, this is exactly right, that vanishing point. You see, hang on. Right here is actually me taking the picture. So the fact that the vanishing point is off a little, that makes perfect sense to where I am and where I'm taking the photograph. Okay, so based on that, you can kind of come in and start filling stuff in. And what you'll notice too is that you see how the vanishing point lines they're sort of hitting where this mirror is at as well. So like we've got a hit here, we've got a hit here, we've got a hit here. It's all lining up. So anyways, what I want you to do is come in and start sketching the main areas of geometry in your drawing. It doesn't have to be perfect. And so I'm going to say that you probably, in terms of the amount of time that you spend, each one of these is going to take you an hour and a half, somewhere in there. Go ahead and fill in. And so in terms of the lines and how you draw them, it's all about like getting your vanishing point set, getting your vanishing point rays all kind of mapped out. And then from there, it should feel like you're just filling stuff in. But you see, everything runs along that line. So in terms of perspective, once you get the vanishing point set, these lines kind of do the work for you. Okay, and so this is a doorway and this is going in. And we can start, this is a point in which you can start thinking about value too. Now, don't worry about going in and like, the doorway goes in a little bit. Some of you might have experience doing perspective drawings before, and if you do, that's fine. You can go ahead and do those details, but for this, I'm just looking that you are able to find the vanishing point in whatever it is that you're looking at and start filling in these details of geometry in the most simple way. And actually, I'll just go ahead and show you just in case you're curious. So when you create volume of something, it's all about kind of just these straight lines. So let me get a little darker purple going. What I can do up here to create that depth is just kind of inlay a line like so. But you can, you can use straight lines. Here, let me flip back to purple. It's these straight angular lines going against the vanishing point like this that helps you create that geometric depth. And then the absence too. So like this doorway, This doorway down here shouldn't have anything here because it should show that it's a continuation. Like the wall goes up, it goes up and around, it comes back down, and then there's no line there. So that shows how the architecture is working within that space. And then I can come in and start doing a little bit more detail. And I've got a little bit of value on this back wall, so I'm just going to kind of go in, whoops, and make it like a lighter value. Of course, I'm coloring in purple so you can see better, but you doing this in pencil. You could even come in and use charcoal if you've got like a dark wall. And then I'm going to go ahead and fill in the blocks of value here. We've got some value in this doorway. Got a little bit of value going on with the fridge here. I am going to go in and create those lines for the fridge. All right, so let me turn that photo off. So we turn that off. And then my light vanishing point lines, maybe go in, shut those off, clean those up. And what you're left with is something, you know, a drawing somewhat like this. And so this is all I'm looking for this week. You're going to do 2 of them. Remember, full pages, full drawing pages. So let me just turn that roller off. So just to be clear, you're going to do 2, 2 perspective drawings. Let's say 1 to 1.5 hours each. 2 full drawing paper sizes from drawing pad. You should have major, geometric, perspective mapped out. Plus some value. So major areas where there's really big shadows, I want to map that out with darker values in your pencil work. Let me just shut this off. Okay, so that's the exercise for this week. Let me know if you have any problems at all. I'm happy to help. You just got to reach out and ask me. I am having a lot of students turning stuff in where they're super frustrated. Well, we're in the hard part, right? We're in measuring and angles and perspective, and this is the hard part. Don't worry, you're going to get some relief. We're going to move on to some organic forms. Measuring and angle and perspective are still important there, but you're going to have a little bit of freedom to go back to value and texture to create 3-dimensionality, but the organic forms are a little bit easier because if they're not perfect, it's not so noticeable. But, you know, architectural type things that exist in the world are. So anyways, that's the exercise for this week. I feel like I'm repeating myself. Oh, if you're frustrated or having problems, you need to reach out to me. If you're just suffering and trying to get the drawings done and you're not, sending me a quick email to have a Zoom meeting so we can talk about it. You know, that's on you. I've repeatedly said that you can reach out to me for help, and I really hope you do that. I feel like I'm pretty nice and pretty approachable. So my main concern in this class is to help you get better at drawing. So let's do it. Okay. All right. Bye for now.